All right, let me take you back to the High Court in Johannesburg, where we find eNCA's Siphamandla Goge. He's been attending that bail application and bail decision of the High Court in the matter of Angelo Agrizzi, and joins me now for an update from there and reactions from there. And Siphamandla, it seems to me that it came down to the judge there deciding that the magistrate who had denied Angelo Agrizzi bail had basically erred in coming to a conclusion that no amount of bail and no conditions would ensure that Angelo Agrizzi actually doesn't abscond but actually attends trial.
Indeed, that is the case. If I were to quote the judge, he says the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court, where the specialized crimes court sits, misdirected itself in terms of fact and law. He says the court ventured into an uncharted territory and made a finding, as a matter of fact, on something that has not been tested in law. So he says, yes, that court erred in its judgment of denying Angelo Agrizzi bail, and he says the court could have looked at other available options in ensuring that it grants bail, but also ensures that Mr. Agrizzi doesn't abscond. He's got, properties and offshore accounts. He says the court should have tried other alternatives. But let's get more reaction now from Cindy Twala. She's the spokesperson of the Investigating Directorate. You must be disappointed with this judgment.
Not quite. Actually, we are actually happy about the judgment because it now means we have guarantees. The one thing that we as a state have been saying from the onset is that Mr. Angelo Agrizzi failed to disclose to the court a coup, as well as the initial court in 2019, about the assets in which he owns. He then told the court initially in 2019 that he owned assets just over 16 million. And then with our own investigation, we were able to find that as of 2019 February, he owned property in excess of about 35 million. He did not also disclose that he's been taking money outside of the country. So what we're happy about in this judgment is that we have guarantees, a title deed of the Italian property in which he owns, which is approximately valued at about 18 million rand.
Of which the judge said this should have been the case in the first place with the magistrates' courts in Palm Ridge.
Had he disclosed. So we were the ones that brought up the various matters around what exactly the true version of the property that him and his common law wife, Ms. Cindy Agrizzi, own. So because he failed to disclose this, that is exactly why that court decided the way that it had.
Let's talk about the stringent bail conditions now. Are you happy with those?
I'm very happy. We, as the investigating director, are very happy because it now means that by the 10th of November, he needs to disclose what exactly that he owns, including that of his common law wife. He further needs to hand over all passports that he owns by the 3rd of November. Failure which his bail will be revoked within 48 hours.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. That is Cindy Twala. I'm going to ask that we get a reaction there from Mr. Agrizzi's lawyer. I can see that he's still busy. Mr. Witz, if you can join us, please, just for a second, just to get your reaction, if you don't mind. I'm sorry about that, but we really need to get a reaction from Mr. Daniel Witz, who represents Mr. Agrizzi. Your reaction, you must be relieved.
It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of hard work, excellent team. Danny, Zahir, Jean and Mali, we worked countless hours and we got the result we set out to achieve.
Those bail conditions are very stringent for your client. How is he doing? How is his health status? We understand that he still needs to stay about 6 weeks or so in ICU. Is that the case?
Yes, that's what we believe. It's obviously an estimate depending on his recovery and his recovery process. But we did receive news last night that he has been taken off a ventilator, which is fantastic news. He is still on dialysis and other forms of life support, but small steps to recovery is a good sign.
Is it true that the Department of Correctional Services is charging you for keeping him under guards, 9 guards that you have to pay for? How much do you have to pay for that?
Yes, the Department of Corrections sent us an invoice, or a quote at least, saying currently the bill's at 66,000 Rand for 9 guards and transport. We've asked them to justify that. As we said, if the family needs to pay, they'll obviously pay, but the Department of Corrections definitely needs to justify their costs.
It's a huge amount of money that he has to pay for his bail. Surely, based on what was read out in court, he can afford that with his assets and with his hard cash. How much in total does he have to fork out in terms of millions of South African rands?
In terms of millions of South African rands, hopefully nothing. I'm hoping he can keep his hard-earned money, but we're still dealing with the Department of Corrections, and hopefully after today he won't be under armed guard and shackled to the bed any longer.
Now, this means he has to go home and get better treatment. His doctors will be able to look after him now, because you argued in court that you were not going to be able to treat him with that security arrangement.
Well, it's not great for the doctors to have to, for example, if they have to move him into a chair or move him into another area when he's shackled to the bed. It's very difficult to have the guards to unlock it and reshackle him to the bed, and especially have so many guards on board.
I will release you though, but the judge was not very pleased with your client not disclosing his assets. Basically, he's being released because that court erred, and also the fact that he did not disclose some of the assets, but the judge was very harsh on your client for not disclosing.
The judge may have been harsh on us, but as we said, a South African citizen who's investing offshore has to disclose to the South African Reserve Bank and the South African Revenue Services, which our client did in fact do.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I have to release you. Thank you very much. That is Daniel Witz, is one of the lawyers representing Mr. Angelo Agrizzi, as we continue to get reaction on the Johannesburg High Court's decision to overturn the decision of the Palm Ridge Specialized Crimes Court to deny Mr. Angelo Agrizzi bail. He has been granted bail.